Now, the Source engine is mostly known for its shooter games. But what if it wasn't? Now don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of the Source engine, as you can probably tell. But another type of game that I love are sword fighting games. Specifically, PvP sword fighting. PvP sword fighting that doesn't suck. Someone's gonna be really pissed off about that. And after some thinking, I kinda figured out that these somewhat overlap. To my knowledge, there are about 4 PvP sword fighting games that run in the Source engine. So I decided to go through and see how well they play. And that itself came with some issues. But I'm not gonna waste any more of your time and get into the first game. Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. And some of you might be thinking, Might and Magic? Like that Might and Magic? In which I respond, yes, that Might and Magic. Others of you might be thinking, wait, isn't Dark Messiah a single-player game? Yep. Okay, it has a multiplayer, but there isn't one person alive who knows the game strictly for the multiplayer. But speaking on the single-player aspects of the game, it is a lot of fun. Being the only game on this list that actually costs money, I'd say it's worth it. It's got a decent campaign, the combat's a lot of fun, and technically it's an immersive sim, so it's an endangered species. But let's talk about the multiplayer, because that's what we're here to do. The footage you're seeing on screen is from a YouTube channel called Classic PC Games. Despite how many people say they loved this game's multiplayer, I can never find a multiplayer server with anyone on it. So I can't give a great explanation of how good it is nowadays, because the last time I was able to play the multiplayer was around 7 years ago. But don't worry, this isn't a problem for any of the other games. However, the game's multiplayer is the only reason that I put it on this list, because otherwise, I wouldn't really call it a sword fighting game. While you do fight with swords, it's not necessarily the main aspect of the game. At least in single player, you can design a build around a specific playstyle. You can use bows or magic exclusively if you wanted to. And I'm no scroll sniffer, so I'm moving on to the next game.
You like Blade?
Now, Blade Symphony is kinda weird, because it's a game I should be able to talk a lot about, but kinda can't. The combat is really solid and kinda fits into that easy to play, hard to master kind of thing. I would have shown some PvP gameplay, but weirdly enough, no one was playing it this hour. Luckily, the game has a training mode with bots, so I could sort of get an idea of how it's played. You can select from 5 different characters who somewhat have different movesets from each other, and you can also select from 5 different weapons. I'm sure at a high skill ceiling these make a much greater difference in how you play, but to me who's barely played the multiplayer, they don't make too much of a difference. You can change your stance between fast, balanced, and heavy to throw off your opponents. You can use this to prevent your opponent from dodging or blocking the attack by switching up the tempo of the battle. All around, it's a really solid game, and you can barely tell that it actually runs in the Source engine. There's a lot I'm leaving out, but overall I would recommend it. And because it's free, you really lose nothing from just trying it. When it comes to this genre of games, Chivalry and Chivalry 2 are some of the most popular ones out there. Despite how popular Chivalry 2 is, there's still a good amount of people who prefer the original Chivalry. And despite how good that game is, what if I told you it's not even the original? That's right, the original Chivalry was a Half-Life 2 mod, and it's pretty cool to think the little Half-Life 2 mod eventually led all the way up to Chivalry 2. So let's take a look at the game that started this small little niche of games, and it has no players.
God fucking damn it!
Okay, maybe. Steam says there's about 500 people online right now as I'm trying to play the game, but when I boot the game, there's only one server with no one on it. I don't know if I'm just doing something wrong, or if this is just some kind of cruel joke, but either way, I couldn't really get into a multiplayer game. Luckily, I have played Chivalry in multiplayer before, and I can tell you this. It is pretty fun. It's like Chivalry Medieval Warfare if you put it on the Source engine. I don't know what you were really expecting. If someone's seeing this who still plays Chivalry, let me know in the comments if people are still actively playing it and I'm just bad at connecting to servers. And the final game I have on this list is Pirates, Vikings, and Knights 2. And would you believe me if I said it was the best game on this list? Like, objectively, it can't be argued. Now, if you've played any sword fighting games, you know balancing them is hard. Great example of that is Mordhau and how they're consistently trying to make it a more competitively viable game. Luckily, the people who made this seemingly didn't even try, but it makes it really fun. Everything about this game just feels right. It feels punchy. And all around, just great. It's like a fistful of frags and Chivalry came together and made one weird little game. And this game even has players. If you're gonna play any of the games from this list, I 100% recommend you play this one. Not saying any of the other games are bad, not by any means, but this one's just so... It's really good. It's just really good. But unfortunately, we've reached the end of our list. If you watched this far, I really appreciate it, as usual. However, there are a couple little things I want to get out of the way before I end the video. I have a Discord that I never really used. I just sort of made it and then kind of forgot about it. But I plan on using it a bit more this year, like having little competitions or having people be directly involved with videos. Because trying to revive some of these dead games becomes really hard when you have about 3 people trying. So if you want to join, the link's down in the description there. But as always, I'm Manic Virus, and I'll see you next time I upload.